The Monterey Poetry Consortium presents LY BUI and Cheryldee Huddleston. Recorded live via Zoom on August 8th, 2021.
Happy Sunday, and thank you to everyone for joining us this afternoon. My name is Kent Latham, and I am the pinch-hitting MC, one of the co-hosts for the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium, filling in today for our regular host with the most, Bob Nielsen. He's kind of our reliable rock to lead each month's reading, but he is enjoying a out-of-state extended family reunion with his grandson and family today. So we're letting them enjoy that, letting them get to make the most of seeing the friends and family. So, but thank you to everybody else for being here. Thank you for all the folks, all the local folks, our reliable, stalwart crowd, as well as all of the folks who are joining us maybe for the first time or in the first time in many months or years from farther afield. I know we've got at least as far as Tennessee and Cairo. So, you know, coast to coast and ocean to ocean. It's wonderful to have you all here, and really grateful for your support of our featured readers today and of poetry and this series in general. As many of you, most of you probably know, we are the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium, the oldest, or shall we say, the most respected and venerable reading series of the Monterey Peninsula, and I think Monterey County. This series has been chugging along stubbornly and persistently and wonderfully for decades, probably longer than I've been alive, actually. And we've showcased dozens of wonderful poets over the years, possibly even into the hundreds by this point. We're really proud and grateful to be spearheaded by our stalwart founding guru and central organizer, John Lowy, who is with us today, and also our intrepid collaborators who make it happen every single month. Jennifer Legier, Bob Nielsen, John Dodson, Garland Thompson. I know I'm forgetting several others, but you know, it's a wonderful crew, and I'm so proud and honored to be part of this great series. If anybody today with us isn't already on our outreach list, you know, I know you all got the email for the Zoom link, but if you aren't on our regular mailing list, the simplest option is to simply join us on Facebook. Come friend us, give us a friend request on Facebook, and we will keep you updated with all the announcements each month. It's always on the second Sunday of the month, always from 2 to 3 p.m. And if Facebook doesn't work for you, just stick around after today's event, and I will get you in touch with John or Jen and make sure that you're on the mailing list. And although it looks like we will be staying safely digital here on Zoom for at least a month or two, possibly longer, due to the continuing public health risks and safety challenges of the Delta variant and the pandemic, we still want to very sincerely acknowledge our gratitude to our regular brick and mortar hosts, the incredible Old Capitol Books in downtown Monterey. They've hosted us for the last, probably 8 or 9 years in normal circumstances. And they've recently, in the last couple months, moved to a new storefront right on Alvarado. They used to be kind of over around the corner, but now they're on Alvarado proper, kind of at the south end of the street there. And so if you happen to be venturing that way with a few dollars in your pocket or a piece of plastic, grab your face mask, step on into the store, and they've got, you know, just as many wonderful titles available for browsing and buying as ever. So we really are grateful to them and support their patronage. So and yeah, Jen, there we go in the chat. If you have your chat box open, there's Jennifer's email address. So if you aren't on Facebook, just send her an email and she'll get you connected here. All right. So we have a really special treat. We have a whole troupe of performers for our first half of today's reading, but they are all led and following in the marvelous footsteps of our first presenter formally, Cheryldee Huddleston. Cheryldee is an award-winning poet, playwright, and educator. Her play "Who Loves You, Jimmie Orrio" won the PEN USA Award for Drama. Her play "Buffalo Bones" or "Light Up the Night, a Silent Movie" was read at the Dramatists Guild San Francisco Footlights series. "Children of an Idle Moon" about the Brontë family was produced at the University of Georgia. and other work has been produced in Los Angeles, North Carolina, Virginia, Oregon, and off-Broadway, last but not least. She has staged readings in New York City, Atlanta, Las Vegas, and at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. Her numerous residencies include the Hawthornden International Writers Retreat in Scotland, the New Globe in London, and Brava, Women in the Arts. Cheryldee returned to the Bay Area in 2013 after receiving her Ph.D. in theater and teaching playwriting at the University of Georgia. Her work, including Who Loves You, Jimmie Orrio, together with monologues in 2 anthologies, is published by Dramatic Publishing in Chicago. She's a former playwriting instructor at the San Francisco Playwrights Foundation and currently is a writing instructor at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, teaching My Glory Never Dies, the military in literature, film, and on stage. And so before we turn the mic over to her, just a couple little kind of housekeeping items to make this experience even more remarkable. First and foremost, obviously, if you're not part of the reading group, please make sure that you go down to mute your microphone, your computer mic. If you haven't, if you're not as Zoom savvy, it should be probably down in the left side of your screen, a little microphone that says mute. If you just click it, so there's a red line slashed through it, that'll make sure that no barking dogs in the background interrupt the performance. But also, Cheryldee is going to be having 5 other performers bring her text to life today, in addition to some of the poems that she'll be performing. And so to help facilitate this more theatrical experience and create a stronger visual sense of her community of actors, she's asking us to all please turn our cameras off during their performance, just this first half of today's reading, so that we can, kind of have that in the theater immersive thing, experience where we're not looking at each other side to side, we're, focused in on the faces of the performers. And so, I encourage you, anytime during these Zoom readings, I encourage you to switch to to speaker view instead of gallery view. That way you'll see, who's speaking most clearly. But again, just for this event, this first event, if we all want to turn our cameras off, and I will turn mine off as soon as I'm done here, so that we just get to see the performers. It'll be a really lovely experience. So without further ado, Cheryldee Huddleston and the performers of the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium for this afternoon. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Ken. And you don't, they're being so good, they're already turning their cameras off. You could do it after I finish speaking or right now in this very moment. I appreciate that very much. I want to thank the Monterey Poetry Consortium, because you may well ask, what am I doing here? Since I do write poetry and I've written poetry, particularly during the pandemic, but as being a playwright. I think this is because the first play that I had read at Old Capitol Books was in verse. So I think that they've been very kind and very generous since, and have allowed me to read other works. And I appreciate that very, very much. I'm going to make this quick because frankly, nobody really wants to listen to what writers have to say about writing. I don't think it's that interesting, but I'll just bring up 2 things that may be interesting. People say that you need to write what you know, and that writers basically write the same story. I think both of those things are true. However, I can tell you with certainty that I would not write anything if I actually knew what I was writing about. And that is because, as my late beloved mentor, director Davy Marlin Jones said, writers are supposed to write their impermissible, not somebody else's impermissible, not what seems edgy, but what is the most frightening for each of us to write. So I've kept that with me, and but the other truth is, and I think maybe the reason I like writing plays and screenplays is because I can reveal myself through characters. Because I'll tell you the honest truth, if I knew what was there after I wrote it, I wouldn't even allow it to be performed. because it makes you feel like you've dropped your drawers, basically, if I've done what I'm supposed to do as a writer. And even with this little homage to Lewis Carroll, and again, I want to thank my cast, because this was fairly last minute, and so I just I love each of you, and I'm really grateful for you to be a part of this and to have taken this time. And the only thing I would say about there are things in my writing that seem to keep coming up. The moon is one. Trains are another. I don't know. I mean, I can say to you right now, well, that makes sense because, the sound of a train moving is very attractive to me. The idea of being in a vehicle that is moving me, that I don't have to move, I am being moved, I find very comforting and kind of inevitable. So that's, I think I've always liked it. But, in the end, this play or any piece of writing is what each one of you feels it is. That's the biggest truth I can come away with. So it's always in your hands. Once I give it to one other person to read, and once I do this, it's not really mine anymore. And that feels both sad and great. Feel both ways about it. So I think that's about it. This is just a little play. and I hope you enjoy it. And thank you again for turning off your cameras. Lovely. Thank you so much. And then Colette, whenever you're ready, dear.
The Observation Car, a play in one scene by Cheryldee Huddleston. Cast of characters: young woman, Eileen Houston; man at the ticket counter, Eric Stone; man in the plaid suit, Richard Boynton; woman in the hat, Cheryldee Huddleston; conductor, George Lober; handsome man in dark glasses, Eric Stone; stage directions, Colette O'Connor. Setting: a train station, 2 cars in the train. Time: hard to say. The ticket counter, labeled ticket counter, is lit brightly but is surrounded by blackness. At rise, behind the ticket counter, the man at counter stands wearing a stiff collared suit and porter's type hat. He seems to be sleeping. In front of the counter stands the young woman wearing an old-fashioned midi blouse, calf-length skirt, and wide-brimmed hat.
Male or female?
Oh, really?
Male or female?
I'm female, can't you tell?
Well, yes, when you use that tone of voice, I suppose I can.
My voice? Well, what's wrong with my voice?
Soft. It's awfully soft.
Romantic?
Man at counter, pointing to a paper.
It says here you're an artist?
Yes?
Well, in that case. Observed or observer?
What did you say?
Do you wish to observe or do you wish to be observed?
Well, I don't know. Which is the better seat?
Well, that all depends, don't it?
Depends on what?
Look, lady, make up your own mind. This is our busiest time.
There's no one here but me.
Look, don't give me that there's plenty of room business. It's been tried before.
There's plenty of room, but that's from...
I wouldn't mention that if I were you, or you won't even get on. Look, how much money do you have?
Oh, I do have a purse, here.
She empties the contents of her purse. The man picks through the contents and takes 2 coins. The man at the counter hands her a ticket.
There you go.
Young woman, putting stuff back in her purse.
Which did I get?
Which did you get?
Which did I pay for? Observer or to be observed?
The train's here!
The young woman, startled, backs away from the counter. The man at the counter, turning his back on her.
Going the wrong way. Weird outfit.
The young woman stumbles past the counter, lights up on a train car. The car is occupied by a man dressed all in plaid and a woman in a hat, dressed in a long coat, her hat pulled down low over her face.
Is this my car? Do you know?
I have absolutely no way of knowing if this is your car. Did you expect me to have any way of knowing if this is your car?
No, not really. I mean, if I don't, why should you?
Wow, she's asking me another question. Tell her she better stop or she'll be thrown off.
The trouble with civilization is a lack of dirt. Those around Voltaire spoke of his filthy fingers. I have not read Voltaire, and do you know why? I am too clean.
The young woman sits.
I don't believe you're really French. Hey, I don't believe you're really French. Say my father wears a tweed suit on Sundays.
Never.
The man in
You
plaid,
will.
standing.
You will, sooner or later.
Rather than betray the resistance, I would have sex with you in that plaid suit.
Oh, you will do that too.
And to think I could have loved you as I did that last summer before the Nazis came, when every day was a different exploration of love, down by the riverbank, amongst the rushes and the bird's nests. I remember how uncomfortable it was in those bird's nests. I loved how uncomfortable it was.
I hate you so. I don't ever want you to bring up that summer, that last summer when I loved you so. I never want to remember the image of those birds' nests and who was with you in them. Frederick, you and that fascist squatting on those damn bird's nest.
I tell you, I thought it was you. It was very dark. I thought you had changed after shave.
Staring at the girl who's been bobbing her head as she watches them.
Are you a child or a teetotum?
Oh, now that is from.
Do not say it.
People have been quoting from Lewis Carroll's.
Well, what should we quote from? The Poetics?
You know, there is no unity of time and place without love. Birds' nests do not matter when one speaks of love.
I'll debate that with you standing on your head.
You mean you will debate that with me standing on your head?
No, I mean, I will stand you on your head and
I tell you, I will divorce you now before God and man if you stand me on my head.
it's the only time we've ever really been able to talk.
The blood rushes into my brain cavity. Oh, as it did that last summer.
Yes. And I kissed your feet. They were so close to my mouth and
What is close to your mouth now?
my nose.
And what else?
And you talk of Voltaire and his dirty fingers. Look at mine now, as they pull off your hat and let loose your bounteous hair.
Oh God, yes, they are filthy.
The train conductor enters. Young woman to the conductor.
Can I upgrade my ticket?
It's usually not done.
Are you thinking of Frederick now? Huh? Tell me, are you thinking of him and his bird's nest now? When you rest here so trustingly in my dirty palms?
I have more money.
Be dirty is to be alive. Give me all of your dirty laundry, my love, and I will spit on it, and then we will both roll in it.
Are you sure? This is one of our popular cars for artists.
Yes, I'm absolutely sure. Do I have enough money?
Come this way. I have one more car that's not quite full.
Aren't you going to take my money?
You pay at the end.
The conductor leads the young woman out of the car. Man in plaid suit as they exit.
You deceiving fascist consorting bitch! This is Frederick's jockstrap, not mine. I can see the little embroidered swastika.
Shit.
I will find that damn fascist and I will shove this jockstrap down his Nazi throat.
As the lights go down on the couple, the conductor leads the young woman into a dimly lit area that looks like a tunnel.
You'd better get out of those now.
What?
How old are you?
None of your business.
The conductor indicating ahead.
This will be a rough car for you, if you don't even know how old you are.
Lights up as the conductor leads the young woman into a second car where a handsome man in dark glasses sits reading Aristotle's Poetics. The conductor, as the young woman looks back to the first car.
Oh, it's too late for that. You'll never know the end of the story.
Suddenly, all three people stumble and almost fall.
What was that?
The train jumped over a stream.
Through the Looking Glass. Now I'm positive that's from Through the Looking Glass.
Any more of that, and you'll be thrown off this train.
As the conductor exits into black, the handsome man leaps to his feet, throws off his dark glasses, and takes the young woman in his arms. This causes her hat to come off.
It's you.
It's me? I've lost my hat.
Oh God, darling, I've been waiting for you.
You have.
I was watching you in the other car.
Were you? Were you really?
Now that you're here with me in the same car, your perfume and the smell of your skin makes me feel faint.
This ticket must be an upgrade.
Don't talk, darling. Just let me love you and take care of you and keep you near me always. Oh, how the very air about you quivers, how the very atoms flutter about you as you breathe, how you enchant me.
Do I enchant you?
I want to touch your face and your hair and all your other beautiful parts. I shall write sonnets to your nose hairs, odes to your toe lint.
Oh, and I want to tell you so many things too. How I feel when I'm in your arms, the colors exploding behind my eyes when you kiss me.
Oh, no, don't, darling, don't say anything. Just let me love you. You are so beautiful, so fascinating.
Oh, it's so wonderful to hear someone say those words. Oh, but what if you're not as good a writer as I am?
Every day of my life, each night as the moon rises and sets in your eyes, my love, and I too shall rise like a body, like a dead body in the river of your body.
Oh dear, you're not.
In his arms as he kisses and embraces her, the young woman opens her eyes and stares out at the audience.
The train is going so fast. I look out the window, but I can't distinguish anything. The train is going so fast. It seems to be all night and no stars. I think maybe I see trees, a deep forest as the train races by, or maybe they're faces, pieces of poems, lips whispering, arms holding, my eyes search. There's a stirring in my heart. There are words on the leaves, and the leaves are spinning in the night like in a storm. The train is going so fast. I want to. The train is going so fast. I can't decide what I want.
The man in plaid enters, carrying a gun.
Frederick, you fascist pig, I have lived long enough in the shadow of your jockstrap.
He shoots in the direction of the handsome man. However, it's the young woman who falls to the ground dead. The conductor enters.
Help me with her, will you?
The conductor, referring to a pad.
Identity undetermined.
Blackout. End of play.
Silence.
Everybody's muted.
Exactly. It's the silence as we all applaud and then realize we're muted and our cameras are off. Nobody can see us clapping yet. So if everybody would, exuberantly turn your cameras back on, return to full screen, we can applaud.
Oh, no, I don't want your applause unless you really mean it.
No, I know we do. I know I speak on behalf of the room. As Bob Dylan once said, it takes a lot to laugh, but it takes a train to cry. And I think it takes a wonderful cast here to bring those laughter, tears, cries, threats, and rejoicings, and all the soft nothings whispered from head to foot to life.
Thank
so,
you.
yes,
Thank
wonderful.
you, cast.
Wonderful job. Thank you, Cheryldee. Thank you, Aline, Colette, George, Richard, Eric. What a fun treat this was.
Thank you.
I think the conceit of the Alice in Wonderland through a looking glass, as we're here on Zoom, as we're all looking through these kind of magic mirror, fun house mirrors into each other's lives and worlds and imaginations. It's so appropriate, out of time as well as in this moment in time. We're all on this train together. We're all in these birds' nests together. Yeah, what a thing. And yeah, absolutely. Cheryldee, the advice that you gave us to start with, writers are supposed to write the impermissible. I think that, I think we got to enjoy this moment of kind of breaking those taboos, breaking those, those barriers between relationships and characters and what they can say and how they can be and how we can express. But isn't that the goal for all of us, just to push through the tired, bored cliches of what we've already seen, what we've already heard, what we've already said, and to get something fresh like this, fresh and dynamic. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful stuff.
Thank you.
Again, you do not have to turn your cameras back on if you don't feel so inclined, but you're welcome to. Kim, our next reader, has not told us not to turn them on. So again, just please do keep the folks who won't be reading as we move forward muted as you're able. But yeah, moving joyously forward here. Our second reader for the afternoon, Kim LY BUI, is a Vietnamese American poet and retired librarian whose poetic lineage can be traced to Thuy An, her maternal grandmother. Kim has a BA in literature and creative writing from UC Santa Cruz and a master's in library science from San Jose State. Her poems have been published in anthologies such as Tilting the Continent, Southeast Asian American Writing, The Body Eclectic, I Am Becoming the Woman I've Wanted, the Before Columbus National Book Award winner, Passionate Hearts, The Poetry of Sexual Love, and most recently, Second Wind, Words of Art and Hope and Resilience. I'm sorry, Words of Art of Hope and Resilience. Like Cheryldee, Kim has also read with us before for this series, so I absolutely guarantee that we're in for yet another wonderful treat here as we enter the second half of our reading. Again, sit back, relax, enjoy. It just keeps getting better as we go.
Thank you, Kent, and thank you, Cheryldee, and the whole troop of readers. That was really wonderful. Thank you all for being here. It's a very different experience. I usually don't read poetry from my basement surrounded by books. So I appreciate you're all hanging in there. So let's see. So I'm going to start with a poem to just sort of remind us all of where we are. It's called Satari. How many lifetimes have I waited for this moment? Sipping flower-starred tea, watching the moon dance with the beat of my heart. And then a couple of newish pandemic-related poems, not yet titled. What I'm not writing about. The flutter of leaves through the window, something dark passing through. Instead, I'm pandemic anchored. Hours pass without noticing. I wait them out, impatient for another day's turning. Inner acrobatics to keep from missing too much. Today we were happy, tomorrow too. Woods walking. The bush ahead shakes. No sign of the small one that trembled its branches. The fern turns brown in the midst of spring greening. Small shoots on the next one unfurl. Roses spangle the hedge, call me close. Dipping my face in the scent, I taste fog dew. Hours earlier, it drifted close, made its way drop by drop, leaving cold, wet, sweet. Something new rises, the path pulls away. I don't have to keep everything that life sends me. One of the things I had in mind when the pandemic started was to go through some of my old poetry and try to write new poetry. And what I discovered was that meeting myself in my old poems brought me back to decades ago. And then seeing who I was now kind of became a bit of a dialogue. So what I'm going to do now is read some poems that I think speak to each other from the past as well as the present. And I really want to acknowledge the teachers that I've had, the wonderful and amazing teachers that I've had through the years, some of whom are on this Zoom poetry reading now. So I'll start with Sister Sails. My salt misted veil fills with wind as I move down the sea meadow path from my father to you. I want time to stop here where the land meets the sea, where the past pulls me back, even as you swing me forward into your arms. Daughter, wife, for a moment I float unnamed, watching that boat on the sharp-edged horizon, its lights like lost stars riding the waves. Oh, sister sails, poised palely between two such absolutes. It was a long, long time ago. And one of the things that Chuck Atkinson taught me when I was lucky enough to work with him at UC Santa Cruz was that I didn't have to make everything come out okay at the end of my poems. That was just such a gift. I took it and ran with it in my life as well. So this was a poem that I wrote when I was working with Chuck, and I really appreciate what he wrote on it. I went back and actually found the original work. The difference between the young woman waiting in the park looking at the sails and the speaker in this poem is one that I really recognize. Driving home. All around me, the flap and tangle of wind, though the trees I pass are stilled, a landscape at peace. No movement except my own, pushing forward against the length of this road, the blankness of air. There is no place for me here. If I keep moving, I know I will come to an ending of sorts with all that I carry. Disgusting and billows my fluttering hair. So I do forward until I come to your arms and rest, where wind lifts the waves above water. Chuck wrote on that, don't touch it, and I haven't. When I went to UC Santa Cruz in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a time where art was still being discussed as what is art? And I remember that was in our one of the first poetry classes that I took. And there was a pretty fierce discussion about whether something like quilting could be considered art because it was useful, or whether art was something that didn't have a tangible use. And again, I was really fortunate to work with Lucille Clifton, a wonderful poet and a wonderful writer, and also a mother and a daughter and a sister. And when I started working with her, she really said, I had young children at that point. She said, your poems will wait, but your children won't. And maybe someday they'll meet. And that really gave me the sort of courage and inspiration to look at quilting, to look at all sorts of things as being women's work that is also art. So this was something that was actually the first poem from my collection of poems that I graduated with. Notes on a lithograph from Matisse. One decoration curves against the next, a woman's rounded body resting on the flowered spread folded upon the chair, spilling flowers and flesh into the darkened room. Her body translated through paper and paints, then lifted and etched onto a surface of stone, inked and printed into another sort of life. These words try to take her again. Her eyes refuse the painter, the printer, the poet. From the gardens of ink and her body, she looks past the end of the page and the weight of our gaze into somewhere herself. Many years later, I got to go to Tassajara. I actually started a practice of going to Tassajara every year. And that brought me from looking at the woman in Matisse to being the woman in the waters in the river. And I wrote the women's side for Tassajara. And I've missed going there the last several years. The women's side. The river comes here first. It shapes a channel through rock for itself, wide enough to hold the rush of new water in spring. This late in the summer, what is wet barely covers the spine of stones in the middle, the curving ribbons of weeds that wait hidden through autumn and ice until the touch of water reveals them again. We bring only ourselves down the narrow slopes, leaving layers of clothing emptied inside on a row of polished wood pegs. Do they remember that once they too were branching green and connected parts of the whole? My hand brushes the lowest twigs. A tree across the creek shivers. I smile. Stepping lightly through heat marbled waters, I sink into the lap of those velvet-skinned rocks and long curls of grasses. I had forgotten how to see myself or another without turning. My body opens in warmth and I can't look away, seized by the beauty of bodies around me, sloping breasts and rounded carvings, the lower gardens of moss and honeyed fruit. Oh, sunlight and sweat-shined skin, I remember, I remember. The opportunity to spend time at Tassajara also meant that I was surrounded by Zen Buddhists, although not very good or proficient at practicing at all myself. It did give me a certain mindset and a way of seeing the world and seeing people in the world. So this poem came from the days of the laundromats and money changing machines. Poem for my favorite bill changing machine. I would walk across town for you, and I frequently do. Place bill face up is your only direction. Stainless, immovable, you take without need the smoothed, torn, and crumpled from strangers and lovers and me. Through each day and night, you, the father I thought I never had, the mother I want to be, accept and accept. Nothing is sweeter than feeding the fruits of my labor, my trust in your steady repose. O Bodhisattva of infinite patience, O Bodhisattva of compassionate return. And a Bodhisattva is someone who is able to reach nirvana, but delays doing so out of compassion in order to save suffering beings. I've also had the experience in looking back at these poems of seeing myself shift from being a sister, from being a daughter, and being a mother, and now a grandmother. And so these couple of poems sort of speak to each other for that. One more fairy tale. From common blood, we created a country. Some called it a family. Now exiled, we still dream at night of its mythical world and feel the dark pull within us. We share the unequal weight of our history, still feel it drag as we move through the years. Somewhere inside us, the dwarf still survives in her lonely chambers, along with the princess, eyes closed, locked in her tower of raven dark hair. Yes, even the witch waits, beautiful, terrifying, strong, sharpening her pen for the stubborn changeling, that wounded one, climbing the ladder of thorns to the past. I also had the chance to work with Rita Dove, and she did an amazing series of poems when we were working in workshops together, going back to the fairy tales, going back to the Greek myths. And she was working on a poem about Demeter. And so in response to what she was working on, and also to being in Bookshop Santa Cruz long ago and hearing a little girl go tearing across the room and saying something that just caught and held. This is Persephone replies. I am the body you made, mother, deep inside, red juice carried in your cup for 9 months, coiled globe and sweet spill of seed. I am the child who ran from you, crying, I'm not your daughter, I won't be good. You brought me back. You gripped my hand so tight. I am the girl clothed in summer and heat, whose hair was brushed in the sun, tangle of silk that you braided and bound. I am the one planted in darkness and pushed into light, the woman running from the hearth, the hungry one, like you, mother, like you. And then I had the chance to be the mother. And so this is Remember This for my children before the divorce. When the first pains came, I was sleeping. It was late. I woke your father and walked the length of the hall in my awkward body, one last time. The seat belt barely fit. I counted stars out loud. The road stretched, curved, and emptied. What I wanted to reach was the end. Inside, the hospital lights were bright. Obedient, I breathed in and out. Someone wiped my face. I gave myself over to a body that couldn't be mine. Again and again, I was pulled against the shock of myself gripping tight, your father's hands warm. So much love in this work, just let go. Then I pushed and I opened my legs for your head to slick through, the rest of you silken and wet. All three of us touched and we cried. Remember this, it was late. I let you go. He cut the cord. There were stars, so much love. This is the truth that remains. I also had a chance to work and study a bit with Robert Haas, and Meditation at Lagunitas was something that was a very important poem to me, and the way that it began also gave me permission in my poetry. All the new thinking is about loss. In this way, it resembles the old thinking. And in response to that, there is a world behind this one that we wake to every day. Sometimes the thought comes too slow, the words barely arrive, or a lifetime seems to pass in the dark before we touch light. It's going to be a little bit of darkness, but then we are going to touch light. Fall, after Philip Levine. Forget spring. Every year begins and ends here with this season, the depot between heat and ice. You taught me that when I slid from your belly all those years ago. It was late in your life, late in the year, and still you labored 2 long days for my arrival. What was there in the first look between us lasted 18 years, though the trees past your window were losing their leaves to the ground. I have learned to name them, walk these tracks murmuring maple, beech, aspen. All through last fall, with the leaves blazing out, you worked to bring our hands together to hold on to the leaving warmth. Even that frosty night when you, my mother, my mirror, closed your heart, snapped your breath, and left, I did not hate autumn. I still do not. Because it's winter. Because it's winter, the leaves are gone. Red berries hang more beautifully against the emptied sky. Missing you, I trace the aching branches almost to the ground, drawing the lines of grief and need more visibly around me. The whole bush shudders as one by one, diving headfirst into the opened wealth of berries come jaybirds, filling the leafless gaps. Every twig sprouts wings. I envy even this bush, bending and weighted. As the birds scatter, flying off blue into blue, the emptied branches buck and lift, trying to follow their flight. The bush, trembling, swings from the ground to the sky. What is rooted here rises stripped and shining, outlasting this season of grieving and need and flight. My family's lineage does go back to my grandmother in Vietnam, who was a poet and a writer. And it occurs to me that a saying that when I was younger, I thought was a very important one also fits now, which is William Carlos Williams's. And I did not study with him, but I remember reading this and it was something that really, it is difficult to get the news from poems. And yet men die miserably every day for lack of what can be found there. I think we are now living in a time where more and more we are getting the news from poems, and poetry is speaking and being written about these times in a way that is just incredible. I had the opportunity to think about my family and my family life and my heritage, and these 2 poems come from that. And there are a few Vietnamese words in this poem. My father's pho. The broth is always steaming when I arrive, oxtail scented mist, the way mornings began in his childhood, fog rising off the Mekong, the soup vendor's cart close behind. Pale half moons of onion, oignon, that word the French forced on his tongue. Ordered piles of beef. Meat is a seasoning, not a meal. Coriander's leafy green. He remembers that color steeping the hills, adds rice sticks, bleached as the stalks harvested after American rain. White aoyai, white bones, the noodles curl thick in the pot. All this my father gives me. Memories meet, the salt of nukmum and grief, heat of soup, his lost life. He finishes with the sweetness of lime. The first bowl is mine. I will eat. The first bowl is important because I'm the eldest daughter. And as the eldest daughter, I have responsibility to the family and to the community. The skin of this poem. Before my parents made me, sliding the long curve of Vietnam into the wide-hipped center of the United States, so that my skin and hair and eyes became pale, reddish blonde and bluish green, a sort of American flag of colors wrapped around my narrow-shouldered, slender, long-legged bones, Vietnamese bones, saved from bombing, flown from burning by the grace of those who made me. I wonder, did they know that they were building a child, daughter or son, with the tools of their body, with the sperm of his persistence, with her one egg ripe with faith for a future that might wait beyond napalm, destruction, herbicides, cancer, loss, despair? Did I push off from their bodies with my own sweet allegiance, forged from two countries at war, a man and a woman, writing the language of all survivors into the skin of this poem? My face, my name, one of many bridges forward, faithful to the work of those who made me. And now these last two, I think will take us, I hope, to a place where we acknowledge the darkness and the losses and all the things that have happened over these years and these times. And we look to a little bit more. Beyond our door, I watch salvia flowers, musk and sweetness, dancing on the spike of a hummingbird's tongue, released, risen wings. Up its throat comes a rusty hinged sound. Give me your hand past the sadness. I still believe that everything wants to be singing. And finally, new leaf. New leaf. Tired of loving with my dark pen, let me meet the stream where it feeds wild mint, mule's ear, starflower. No following back to the source. That's not for this day. I'm done with praising the nettle's swift sting, the place where hard rock is calling. I will rest content beneath the generosity of aspen, waving silver and bright, shiver and light at each turning. Let me write wet and new, move in the path of yesterday's snake, slick yellow and black, impossibly slender, small-headed. Columbine burst from each crevice, the scarlet of petal and knob answered by shimmering wings. I trust in the calm of their settling, freckled hearts opening from the body's dark edges. Praise the snake to its stone, the blossom in flight. Give rest to the shadows we carry. Thank you. Thank you for being a great Zoom audience.
Applause, you know, again, if we want to unmute and we can do a big round of applause for everyone, they can hear us clap, that would be lovely. The screen is going to bounce around, try to figure out who's clapping now. But again, thank you. Thank you so much, Kim, for those poems. This is the truth that remains. I mean, those were all the truths that remain. Your starting idea that we don't have to keep everything life sends us. Everything doesn't have to come out okay. I mean, what is that not the human condition, but to be able to accept it and to move forward because of it and in spite of it and with it. Last night here in Pacific Grove, I went down to Lover's Point for the 76th anniversary of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings for a remembrance ceremony that they do. They float candle lanterns out on the bay. And you know, there were poems and there was music and it was a beautiful thing. And to have that last night in my brain, and then today, you know, your poems about the kind of the family history and the multinational histories, and to hear these, you know, amidst this ongoing conflict of health and safety and politics and turmoil, to know that we still have truths. They still do remain. We can still meet ourselves in our old poems. We can still meet new people in new places, even if it's online here through friends we will continue to cherish. And to have, as if I can steal one more line from your poems, Kim, to have this intersection in the depot between heat and ice, as we started off on the train with Cheryldee and her crew, her noble crew, and to pass through the depot and on to the second round. I always love having readings where we have very different voices in partnership with each other like this, to say, we're not here for the same thing twice over. We're here for the entire myriad tapestry of the human condition. And so just, thank you, bless you for sharing all of that with us. And thank you in the audience for being here, because if you're a writer, if you're a performer or an artist or musician, you've probably already learned far too well that it's incredibly hard to perform on Zoom when you're not in the room with people and you can't hear them gasp or laugh or sigh or applaud fully and enthusiastically. So at least thank you for giving our performers today as much as we are able, digitally and in pixels. And thank you all for being here. Thank you to the readers. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to all of the readers, and to every audience member. Please join us again here on Zoom next month, the second Sunday, 2 p.m. It'll be September 12th, and the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium will feature Peter Thabit-Jones alongside one of our very own cherished organizing colleagues, John Dodson, who is here with us as well today. So John and Peter will be very much looking forward to those readings. And again, every month, every second Sunday, 2 p.m. Hope you'll come back and join us. Again, give your love to Old Capitol Books. Stay safe, stay well, keep hopeful, keep inspired, and may poetry continue to be with us all.